Hi, I'm the institutional market leader for Johnson Controls. My name's Julie Brown. In marketing, it's not good enough to do ROI. Today we have to have business impact like EBIT. Learn more on Break Free.
Welcome to Break Free. I'm Joshua Knight with TopRank Marketing, and I am here right now with Julie Brown. She's the institutional marketing leader of Johnson Controls. Julie, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
And we're here at B2B Marketing Exchange. How has this conference been for you so far?
This has been really good. The opportunity to just kind of sharpen the saw and see what other people are thinking and leading on has been very refreshing.
So I know we have in our profession, we have a lot of creative titles. As far as marketers go, we have evangelists and gurus and ninjas and chief content officers. I think Shep Hyken is the chief amazement officer. I haven't seen institutional marketing leader before, though. Can you tell me what that's about?
Sure. So for Johnson Controls, our institutional markets are healthcare, higher education, and K through 12. So across our building solutions business here in North America, the HVAC controls, fire security offerings that go into those markets are what I'm focused on. Or the short way I tell my mom is, how do we help customers that are schools and hospitals from the things that Johnson Controls can do?
I love that you brought it into a story, that how can we help a customer? Because I was looking at the HVAC controls and sprinkler controls, that can seem a little dry on the page, but I love the way you brought that into what can we do for customers?
That's really central to Johnson Controls. I mean, we're a buildings company. And so bringing our value forward really starts by powering any customer's mission.
So we're talking about upstream marketing. Can you explain that term for our listeners and what exactly that entails for your day-to-day?
When we think of marketing at Johnson Controls, there's the old, I believe it goes back to Procter & Gamble, the concept of where to play and how to win. So upstream marketing is the where to play, understanding customer needs, segmentation, targeting, product innovation, those elements. Once you've defined a new offering, then the how to win is how you connect with sales, whether you do account-based marketing, you do content, lead generation, all of that is now I've got something. How do I get so the market is aware and purchases it or goes through their buying process?
So this is research to drive the right audience for a product or the right product for an audience, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. It's really starts with understanding what customer needs are, where are their pain points, and looking at what we do and are there new and creative ways that we can help address those needs and pain points. How do you look at a hospital and help doctors cure and patients heal? And are there things, and there are, in HVAC and fire and security that can actually contribute to that?
That's great to bring such a human side to. I haven't thought about HVAC in human terms, but I would imagine if the air conditioner or the heater went out in a hospital, that would be a fairly major thing.
It's actually the environments that we're in, at least for the education and healthcare, are really impacted by the conditions you're in. So it's not just how comfortable I am in a hospital, but for example, about 750,000 people every year are going to get a healthcare acquired infection. And about 77,000 of those will die, according to the CDC. One of the things that slows the germs and the organisms that create those infections is the temperature, pressure, and humidity in a hospital. So if I can control the temperature, pressure, and humidity, fewer people are going to get these really horrific things. Same thing with schools. Students learn better if the indoor air quality, if the temperature, if the conditions in the classroom are conducive for learning.
Yeah, my wife is a teacher, and I think they don't have an air conditioner in their school. So it's northern Midwest, but sometimes at the beginning of the end of the summer, they have 95-degree classrooms. And you're right, it is very difficult to learn when you're in that situation.
Yeah, and they've proven that actually impacts student attendance.
Mm-hmm. I figure it would. It kind of impacts teacher attendance even.
I'm sure it does. In fact, that's where Johnson Controls got founded. It was founded by a teacher who was always fiddling with how to get, this is up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The classroom was too hot. The classroom was too cold. The classroom was too hot. And he was going back and forth trying to get the heating and furnace system to deal with that.
It feels like in those verticals, you're in education and healthcare, you're going to have some pretty unique challenges to doing that research and to even executing on the marketing. What are you encountering?
I'd say there's 3 big challenges that we're facing. One, the markets themselves are really in a state of flux. Healthcare continues to evolve and adjust based on the outcomes for the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. We're watching demographic changes. So the youngest millennials might be a senior in college, right? So that's changing the demographics of who's in college. They're establishing families, and so that's creating growth in K through 12. And you've got really persistent, hard problems around security and active shooter that everyone's trying to figure out around a very, very hard problem. So that would be the first one. Probably not surprising to a lot of companies is how we use data and what the data is and how you align that around customer needs. There's just lots of great opportunity, but some days you work hard on what you've got and see how you can get it to come farther. And then the last one is this evolution of marketing from being something that participates as a function in the business to actually being a measured driver of growth that the business can count on.
What kind of measurement are you doing in your particular role?
So we look at our programs very much from a financial standpoint. So it's not good enough to just have ROI. I've got a couple of programs where we're looking for the EBIT, the actual earnings before interest and taxes that the program's going to contribute. It's not just how much revenue. We track within marketing things like clicks and opens and stuff like that, but the respect that comes to marketing comes when you can present the work you're doing in terms that the CFO recognizes and understands. And those are the terms of business, not the terms of marketing.
There's that whole idea historically that marketing is a cost center, that you put money in and you get marketing out the other side. And that we're looking at trying to change that model to where you put marketing in and you get money out of the other side. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's what we're driving towards and evolving towards every day.
So doing that research to be that data-driven marketer, is that more challenging because of the nature of the healthcare industry or the education industry? Is it hard to gather that data in the first place? And then how do you have to safeguard it?
Yes and no. Part of it, when they're institutions, there's lots of public information, right? You've got the American Hospital Association, AHA, public schools, all of that, lots of universities. That's on the Department of Education. So there's a lot of public information about those particular verticals. What makes it challenging is that intersection of adding value, right? Really understanding what they're thinking, what they're doing, and how you align that around your offerings. That takes creativity between how we're interacting and interpreting how that interaction really creates new platforms, new products. That's the stuff that we keep closer to the vest.
Can you elaborate a little more on that creativity and how that leads to creating new products and new processes?
So one of the examples that we've been looking at, actually a little bit about account-based marketing, is how do we get to the why? A lot of people will be familiar with Simon Sinek's, get to the why, right? And that's where you've got to start when you're really powering marketing campaigns that shorten the sales cycle, increase margin, and make things easier for sales reps to sell. So many organizations, you can come up with a list of what your customers are buying, whether they're products or services. One would hope that you, as the company that delivers them, understand what the value prop is. That you understand what benefits and customer needs the service or product is offering. So you should be able to map backwards to say, if this customer is buying these things and these are the benefits that those are providing, then likely the customer has this set of needs. And so without actually having the customer directly tell you that, you can get pretty close to what it is. Not only that, but for anyone who's done a lot of qualitative and quantitative research, customers are really bad at telling you what they want. Beyond saying I want more at less price, the nuances inside that are harder to get to. So that's an example of being creative on how you get to something based upon the data I've got, even when it's not precisely telling me what I need to know.
There's definitely that want versus need thing, and finding out what they actually need 3 layers down instead of what they're going to tell you they want.
Right.
When you're looking at data, then is it both that public data that you were talking about, but then also are you talking directly to teachers, principals, doctors, that kind of thing?
Yes, although so we talk to them. We also talk to a lot of our customer peers, which often are the people that run facilities or the head of security or life safety within these institutions. But yeah, customer centricity, that's where a lot of what we do starts, is where our strategy plans start, is making sure that it's anchored and validated against not just what we all thought, but is this new offering something that customers want? I've actually got something the team's been working on, and we're kind of getting ready to take it to that next stage gate. And that's the last piece we're going for. It's like, we've got this idea, we have this hypothesis, we think there's something there. Before we go take it any farther, we need to double check with some customers to make sure, yeah, you're on the right track before it gets more investment.
So how did you get into this particular role, and maybe into marketing in general?
I would say the inflection point actually started earlier in my career at Alcoa, working for their chief customer officer at the time, who really put together a growth practice and pulled together a group of people that were looking at how do you grow B2B industrial companies, and pulled together at the time a growth process with finite steps in it that start with, understanding what the destination is, how big do you want to get? Do you want to create another $250 million business in defense or wherever? What's the value proposition? Validate it with customers. Once you have that validation, build the offering, and then create that downstream Marcom plan, working with sales to go get it. And so everything's kind of just been building that as far as scale. One of the things that's really unique is, as they looked at upstream marketing, there's really a career arc of specific steps you had to do. It was great that you could go through that process and come up with a strategy, but then you actually had to go into a business as a general manager and actually apply the strategies. So when you come up with a new product, now we're going to put you in a place where you're going to try and get a manufacturing line that's creating that product, and manage the inventory and manage the supply chain and introduce it to the customers and train it to the sales reps, so that when you come back to doing strategy, you understand, not just in marketing, but in all levels of the business, what it takes to deliver these programs.
And did you go through that whole process?
Yes, absolutely.
It does seem like if everyone could do everyone else's job for just a couple of days, that we would have a lot more synergy and be able to work together a lot more efficiently.
Well, and part of it is, I think there's an evolution happening in marketing more broadly around, as you said, the validating what marketing's bringing to the table. And if you think about it, it creates a powerful opportunity for companies that are early movers, but we're not the first ones to go through this. If you think back to, the late 1980s and early 90s, and you looked at manufacturing, companies were like, you know what, we can probably do better. And brought in things like Six Sigma and Lean. And so now companies, if you look at manufacturing in a company, they know pretty well if they're going to expand a plant, or if they're going to invest to build a new plant, the CEO of the company knows how much it's going to cost, what the payoff's going to be, and how long they have to wait for it. They know how much waste they can predict will come out of the system through continuous improvement every single year. You get to the late 90s and the early aughts, they did the same thing with IT, right? The CFO is sitting here going, it seems like I'm spending a whole lot of money with IT. I'm not sure what I'm getting for it. Companies have gone through things with SAP and other IT transformations, so that today, they really have often a seat at the table as an engine for driving any B2B business. And again, CEO and the CFO know, listen, if we're going to invest in data centers or roll out this new version of Office or new equipment, they know what productivity they're going to get They know what risks they're avoiding by making that investment. What we see is that's coming to marketing. And what's encouraging about that is both from a manufacturing or an operational excellence standpoint and IT, they adapted. They figured out how to start talking about what they did in financial terms that the CFO understands. And on the flip side, every company is looking to grow. A lot of companies don't look to marketing because they don't trust and respect marketing enough to deliver that. It's financial terms, it's EBIT, it's operational, OI, it's revenue, it's earnings per share. Those are the things that they understand. And when marketing can say, listen, if you give me this much within this period of time, I'll deliver this much back. When you're president of a business, if you hire 200 more sales reps, you know what you're going to get. You know, whatever your cycle is, right? In 18 months, they'll be productive. 200 sales reps are going to drive this much revenue and this much profit. If for whatever reason you've got to take 50 out, you know it's going to be painful, but you understand what that pain is and you know about how big it's going to be. They don't know how to do that with marketing. And that's the opportunity. And in doing that, and that's what we're working really hard on, the flip side of it is it's kind of the last function where you can get big strategic competitive advantage, right? I mean, think about the companies who were early adopters of Six Sigma and manufacturing. They had huge systemic growth in the market and in their industry. Companies who were early adopters around that IT transformation got huge market share and transforming their business. The companies that can leverage marketing for growth have first mover advantage available to them. It's just going to take marketing to explain in business terms, financial terms, how to be that player.
Do you think that marketing can get that degree of certainty, though, that an IT person can? I mean, I know that if I get 12 computers that have 4 gigs of RAM apiece, I'm going to have 48 gigs of RAM. I'm not a math major, I'm an English major, but I think that's it. But can we say, given just the nature of people is always, there's some wiggle room in there, can we have that degree of certainty to say if we do this, then we'll get this outcome?
I think so. But I think it's also where we're getting with data and AI today. So if you would have asked me that question 5 years ago, it would be hard. I think we're getting to that today. And on the flip side, think about it. Sales would have told you the exact same thing. Well, being able to say on a monthly basis, I'm going to make a plant, but sometimes customers buy and things happen and the PO gets postponed, right? Like they're sitting here going, there's someone, and yet
that's fair.
The business largely knows what they can do. Now, what's changed is with data analytics, where 5 years ago, just the evolution and progress in AI didn't exist to figure out the really big correlations and regression analysis and the time lags that happen in marketing so that I can see when I do this email campaign, really what is it in that email campaign that's driving the results. We haven't had that before. It's starting to emerge.
So maybe we humans are giving ourselves a little too much credit when we say we are way too unpredictable to be able to. Yes, if you look at a big enough picture with enough computing power, you can kind of see those patterns emerge.
Absolutely. Well, and think about, I see this in healthcare all the time, right? We have better outcomes for oncology and cancer today because of big data and data analytics, right? So now doctors that might have seen, hundreds, maybe thousands of cases, they're tapping into artificial intelligence. It's now looking at cancers across millions of people. And that data is saying, I know, doctor, this is how you kind of like to do your chemo mix and the protocol. But the evidence across 1 million people says it's actually this sequence that is proven to have the best results. So it's just a matter of bringing that big data and that analytics over to the scope of what marketing's doing, especially in B2B, because there's just so much data, so many customers that you've got to crunch. We haven't had that opportunity 5 years ago.
Have you seen any resistance to this idea as we put it across to a team? Because I could see people going, yeah, that's not what we do. We do clicks, we do impressions, you know.
Right.
Have you seen that resistance at all, or has it been pretty smooth?
What I find is a lot of people just really struggle to understand how you can get there. And and that's our job as leaders to show them how you can correlate these activities over here to something else. And the reality is we've got to do it ourselves, because if we don't, companies are going to keep marginalizing the work that we do. But yeah, it's absolutely a change to say, I have this conversation with some of my print advertisers to go, listen, I need to know when I run that ad, how many POs I get. That's the level of specificity we're looking for. And they just look at you like, how do you do that? And it's like, well, that's my bar. That's what I've got to start delivering on.
I would love to know more about your tech stack then. We talked a little bit about the AI and the ML. You don't have to mention specific vendors if you don't want to, but just like what kinds of technology are you employing, or what types of tools?
So we've got obviously tools that do lead generation and tracking them through the process. We do a lot of integration with our CRM system and really doing some evolution on how do we activate more of the marketing modules inside that CRM system so that starts getting tied closer and closer together. A lot of the tools that are coming out around data visualization that are now available to make it really easy for you to go, this many customers in this vertical, show me what's going on. One of the tools we're looking at around the measurement of the impact of marketing, we're looking at companies like Proof Analytics that may be able to do a cleaner and more simple job of connecting, if you did something here, when does it show up? And what was it what are the elements of that campaign that delivered those results, so that you can do more of it, so you can take the waste out and amplify the stuff that works.
So one thing that we've talked about in a couple of other interviews is this idea of sales, marketing, customer service all kind of combining together and forming a Voltron of being able to meet customer needs and attribute things directly to revenue. And there was this idea of marketing needing to take credit and sales needing to take credit, and that attribution being almost a barrier there. Do you feel like that plays a role in how we have to talk about this?
At least my experience at Johnson Controls, it's not necessarily attribution. And I think and part of that's our values. And so we definitely, look to make sure that what we contribute gets recognized. On the flip side, it's not, at least my perception is, it's not this is too strong of a word, a selfish thing from sales to say, I'm not giving you credit because I need that as a sales rep to say all of this happened. It's more like, at the pace at which we're working, just isn't time sometimes to go and acknowledge all the touch points that happened. I know one of the ones we're looking more carefully at is just how the buying cycle has shifted now, so that when you do have a new lead, when you do have a new opportunity, you need 12 to 18 touch points in order to get to that first request for a quote. And when most sales reps stop at 3 or 4, it's looking at, okay, so what can I, why are my leads not converting? How do I work with sales better? It's like, well, maybe we can find a way where we can pass the ball back and forth, right? You touch them 2 or 3 times, you go on the meeting. I can see that in our CRM system, and having seen that, I'm now going to do 2 or 3 more steps to set them up for their next conversation with you, Mr. Sales Rep. You do a couple more steps, and we'll just keep going back and forth, and we'll own part of the process for you in a way that's appropriate.
I love that idea, but partially because I, as a marketer, like the idea of marketing just extending tendrils throughout the organization, but also because it seems like eliminating that handoff that's just a drop off a cliff seems to be the only way that we're going to keep moving forward. Do you think?
Yeah, and it's a change though. And part of that is educating sales to go, listen, part of the reason this feels like it's harder is because it is. Because before, when you could do 5 or 6, touch points and you get your first shot at it, that's gone up 4x. It is harder. We've got some tools that can help you with that.
What do you think is driving that, though, that the addition of touch points to the buying cycle?
Probably 3 things. One is just kind of the information, right? Like, buyers can get a lot on their own. What you also see is the number of decision makers, especially in B2B, is going up on decision processes. And then just the scrutiny around the decisions. So part of what's changed it, why that's getting harder is, as a vendor, even if you've got an established relationship on each project, you're the risk that you won't deliver, that you won't make whoever's making that decision look good. And as the stakes on their side against risk continue to escalate, there's more people that get involved in the decision, the more people are going to look at the decision as we go through. So it's really continues to be, how do you, from the outside, make sure that you are addressing what that risk is, which circles all the way back to understanding what their needs are, because those needs, then they're going to try and go with you to address those needs because they trust that you're going to be the best opportunity they have for addressing that risk, including competing against them saying, yeah, I'll do it myself, because I trust myself more than I trust somebody else.
I think that keyword trust, that's just where it all stands and falls. Such a simple word, but a very, very big one that we have to figure out as marketers how to do it. But I love that I think we've kind of come full circle. We started with, hey, you can start building that trust before you even bring your product to market by doing that research and knowing how that product's going to be received. Mm-hmm. So you're in the trust business.
We are. Trust and risk.
Sounds great. Well, tell us, Julie, how can people get a hold of you if they want to connect on social media, or if you have any spots that online where they can find you?
Yeah, the easiest spot is on LinkedIn. My profile up there is actually Julie Zutz Brown, and happy to connect and share with others what I'm doing and help this larger community of B2B get better at our craft.
Right, well, I've asked you a lot of really hard questions, and you've been an amazing sport. So here is the most open-ended question that we ask. It can, whatever it means to you, how can marketers break free?
To me, it's about proving to the business in their terms the value you bring. Because here's the cool thing. When you prove that, most businesses turn around and go, oh, no, you guys need so much more. We aren't getting the growth because we aren't giving you what you need. And that's the thing, getting the respect and the resources to do what we know we can do. Breaking free is proving in business terms the value that you bring every day.
Well, there you have it. If you want to get respect and get that seat at the table, we need to start thinking in terms of proving that value. And we can't hide with the idea that human behavior is too wiggly for us to measure. We got to use that technology. We got to use all the resources at our disposal to really talk in terms that the business will understand. And then the riches and the budget and the better results will follow. I've been Joshua Knight. Thanks again, Julie. And we'll see you on the next Break Free.